Hello, Mr. Cobra Jones. My name is Hunter Wallace, and I am one of these neo-Confederate domestic right-wing extremists. Would you call it silly bumpkin people that you're addressing on your YouTube account? And I've got a response here to your little video. Okay. In terms of your criteria of what is necessary for a state to secede, I believe you said that in order for a state to secede, it would not have to represent the government wouldn't be representative of the whole people of the United States. Well, we know one thing for sure, and that is that the Obama administration is not representative of the white Southern people. It is instead, clearly, to me, and if you can look at the exit polls from the last two elections, and it's clear. The federal government represents a clear majority of the Yankees. It represents a clear majority of the Jews, the overwhelming majority of the blacks, decisive majority of the Hispanics and the Asians, and of course, the federal government of the United States also represents some of the welfare state dependents, like single mothers who see Uncle Sam as a sugar daddy, and that is the people that the U.S. federal government represents. Well, the thing is, man, we live in a multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic society, and when you combine democracy with that, you're going to get a tribal head count in every election, and we're just saying that we're tired of this, and enough is enough. And secession allows us to remove the problem and restore our majority, and we can have a government for Southerners by Southerners here in the South. Of course, you also said something about you can't secede from the United States because no one is going to support you. Well, you would have to think that the Russians and the Chinese would be overjoyed that the South is seceding from the Union, considering how the United States antagonizes China by recognizing the independence of Taiwan, and it tries to surround and encircle China with a network of allies in like the Philippines and South Korea and Japan, Vietnam. And look, and what about the Russians? The United States has been interfering in their backyard for a long time now. You've got neoconservatives who are interfering in Georgia, and you got NATO expanding into the Baltic states. And if you remember back in the Cuban Missile Crisis, the federal government, Kennedy had nuclear missiles in Turkey. And so anyway, these neoconservatives, especially the people who were for Mitt Romney, considered Russia their greatest enemy. And so you got to think that if the United States split in half, that the Russians would be all for that. So let's dismiss that objection. Okay. And then you said, the red states in America are not self-sufficient. We don't have a self-sufficient economy, unlike, say, California, or Illinois or New York, three of the brokest states in America. Let me tell you something. The red states in this country have, let's see, the natural gas, the coal, the oil, most of the refining capacity. We can shut off your electricity, man, and it's over. All Arizona and Utah has to do is shut off the electricity to California. Or West Virginia can shut off the electricity to the D.C. area. And all that oil that comes from Texas and the Gulf Coast, so we're going to be able to get by a lot easier without you than you could ever get by without us. But I'm forgetting something here. Maybe you can run the Northeast on green energy. Go for it. Okay, let's see here. Oh yes, and the South would be so much poorer without the Northeast. Even in the 1860s, the South was one of the richest countries in the world in terms of per capita income. I believe the South was like 3 or 4 in per capita income in the 1860s, and it's the same way today. If the South seceded from the United States, and if we were joined by most of the Western states too, we would definitely be one of the richest countries in the world. So that's not a concern. Oh yes, and then of course, how would the South ever defend itself from Obama's military? Well, of course, I think that now New England might be able to round up enough women soldiers and LGBT soldiers to invade Alabama, but that would be something I would like to see. I would like to see Vermont try to invade Alabama. That'd be really funny. Okay, and then in another objection, you say that we're going to collapse without all the state regulations imposed on us by Washington. If it were not for the TSA, life here would come to an end. You'd have to be a true blue Yankee to believe something so farcical. Medicare, what about your Medicare? What about your Social Security? What about your Medicaid? What would you do without these government programs? Well, one has to ask, how did we survive throughout thousands of years of history? Well, I mean, how did anybody ever get by without the clearly unsustainable welfare state? Well, we country bumpkins have an institution called the family. Maybe the family needs to take care of elderly people. Or maybe people need to be self-reliant and take care of themselves in old age. Or maybe you need stronger families and stronger communities and stronger churches. Institutions, civic institutions, to replace these state institutions. And these institutions are actually sustainable, unlike this big government mess that is killing off people in Europe and the United States. I mean, you're so old, your age ratio is out of whack. It's going to collapse no matter what. It's already doing it in Europe. Okay. Oh yes. What did you say here? What would we do without you? You spend so much more in spending here than you do. Than you pay out in taxes, you blue states. Well, one of the things that occurs to me is to ask is, because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act, and other examples of civil rights legislation, how much does it cost to rebuild Atlanta to the borders of South Carolina and Tennessee and Alabama? Or how much does it cost to rebuild all of Birmingham or Montgomery or Mobile or Memphis or New Orleans or Richmond? Because we have an obviously failed system due to the civil rights laws. Well, I would assume that it's a lot cheaper to get rid of all this federal legislation and to let the free market take over than to constantly be rebuilding all these cities every 5 years because of government interference. Okay, and you say that we have no moral right to secede from the Union. No moral right at all, huh? Coming from a bunch of Yankees who seceded from Great Britain because they wanted free trade with they wanted to smuggle goods back and forth to the French Caribbean because it was more profitable for them, and a few taxes on tea and stamps. It is absurd. Like when you compare to what we have to put up with under this union to what New England had to put up with under King George III. I mean, if King George III was bad, what do you call Obama? And so we have every moral right to secede from this union. This country was founded on secession, and we have a constitutional right to do that. Secession is not prohibited by the 10th, but it's not prohibited by the Constitution, and we're more than capable of economically thriving without the Northeast, and culturally we'll be in better shape without you. So, goodbye, Yankees. Thanks for watching my video.